Lea Jakobiak and welcome to the Fintech Finance Virtual Arena. Today we are going to be looking at Generation Z and how green finance is booming at the moment. Joining me on today's panel, we have Ray Brash, co-founder and CEO of PPS. How are you today, Ray?
I'm super good, thank you.
But we've also got co-founder and CEO of Green Got, Andreá Ganovelli. How are you today, Andreá?
I am good. What about you?
Yes, I'm good, thanks. And last but not least, we've got the CEO and co-founder of Pockid, Hennig. How are you, Jess? Thanks for joining us.
I'm good as well. Thanks for having me.
Love it. Okay, so let's kick things off. And can you just start by introducing yourself, just to set the scene, what you do, what your organizations are all about? Let's kick off with you, Ray.
Yeah, hi. Well, so as you said, I'm one of the co-founders of PPS, which have been in the sort of accelerated payment space for about 18 years now. And we specialize in providing an outsourced payment service covering everything from cards to IBANs, bank accounts, wallets, compliance. And we really like to sit in the background, not take all the glory, and allow our customers who bring great ideas and great user experience to really focus on what they do well. We've got about 350 staff in 5 locations around the world. And we processed last year about 50 billion euros of payments.
Fantastic. And Andreá, what about you guys?
I am the CEO of Green Got, which is a company of like 15 people, and we are dedicating on tackling climate change. And by that, I'm saying that Green Got is 2 things. It's a payment account and saving account dedicated to, solving one of the biggest problem of the humanity that we will face in the 21st century. And that's it. I'm just below 30 years old, and we are a super young team, and like everybody is super involved on those issues. And we are gonna launch our product in the French market within a few days, and Green Got will be available all around Europe in a few months, I hope.
Brilliant. So you are the ones who will be able to talk about Generation Z. And Jez, tell us about Pockid and what you guys do.
We are the one talking about Generation Z. We are the first Generation Z neobank here in Germany. Pockid got founded last year. We are partnering up with PPS. We launched our product around 3 months ago. Already the biggest European neobank on TikTok. I don't know if this is impressive for you, but we have a big job to achieve and a big mission to do by serving the young generation to pay independently online and offline with a dedicated and hyper-tailored banking app experience.
Brilliant. So that is very impressive. I'll check it out on TikTok later. So yes, let's talk about green finance and the increase in interest in ESG finance. Tell us what trends you're seeing, if people are really starting to veer towards green finance and really focus on ESG investments. What do you say, Ray?
Well, I think obviously it's a massive industry, and everyone's very cautious about being accused of greenwashing. However, we're all businesses as well. So I think where it's been successful is where there's been clear examples of a commercial and an environmental benefit. I think one of the obvious examples is the sort of virtual payment space, particularly around using mobile devices instead of plastic cards, which historically have had issues around things like PVC content, etc. And you're seeing more and more institutions producing products which are effectively card-based payments, which don't even have a card. If you want a card, that's extra. That's encouraging users to use digital payments, which are much cleaner. And of course, from a commercial point of view, it's saving costs for the Fintech. So that's a pretty good example. And I also think, and this is probably one you always think about, if you think about cash, cash is actually not a particularly great environmental product. It has to be manufactured. It's quite an intensive manufacturing process. But it also has to be transported. which requires big trucks with security and driving around city centres, etc. And so that actually has an indirect environmental impact. So reducing things like plastic and cash both have a commercial benefit in the economies they're in, but they also have an environmental benefit. So these things happen when it's not just about purely going down the environmental route. And I think those two things we've seen during COVID most obviously. So it's kind of been one of the real positive byproducts of the whole crisis has been that move towards digital payments, which inherently are more environmentally beneficial.
And Andreá, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, especially the fact that, with the different lockdown we had and like all the crises we just got, I think people had to buy things online. People also get more money to save. They spend way less. And, the more money you have to invest, the more money you save, that you start thinking about it. What should I do with this money? Should I keep investing in whatever I'm seeing? Or should I maybe think that what's happening at the moment with the COVID, maybe it has an impact. It is related to the fact that we are destroying the planet. We are cutting the tree in some places. So animals, they have to live in a restricted area or something, and like all these viruses, they developing thanks to that. So I think that's super important. And like we have to keep having in mind that we are responsible at least for part of what happened with the destruction of the planet. And like the money is one of the best weapon we can have for that. We can spend our money more in a better way, but we can also invest our money in a better way that can help the planet.
And Jess, do you see that particularly younger people, so Gen Z, want to invest in things that have good long-term value for all stakeholders?
Yeah, surely. If we look at the Generation Z, I mean, they're socialized with sustainable issues and topics all around them. And they got socialized by this Friday for Futures trend, and they're much more sensitive towards this topic. And they also have a good feeling for greenwashing topics. So if you advertise Gen Zs, or if you want to communicate a product towards them, you as a company have to make sure that you're actually matching all those sustainability requirements, because as mentioned, this generation is super sensitive for those topics.
Absolutely. And just going straight back to you, because Gen Z, they are young, they're just starting out with finance products, so they get to utilize the money making finance products that are out there. What are the benefits for targeting them as an audience in financial services, and how do you do that? You just mentioned TikTok, for example.
So maybe let's start by the problem we want to solve. This generation is socialized with in-game purchases at Fortnite, FIFA, League of Legends, maybe those games. They do. They have subscription-based services like Netflix and Spotify. They obviously do e-commerce transactions, but they are not. They don't have a hyper-tailored financial service offering, which really helps them to firstly enable the digital hobbies and needs, and secondly understand about their own digital spending behaviors. So Pockid, we are super much enabling this generation to understand where digital money is going, where it's coming from, and also to learn how to spend it wisely. And we think that our approach through TikTok with kind of an educational content, but also an enabling content to really demonstrate what Pockid is made for, helps this generation to see the benefits of Pockid in the end. Because if we look at the high street banking market, especially here in Germany, we see that those banks, have challenges everywhere, all around them. They get tackled by other neobanks in the adult area. They get challenged in the corporate field. So they don't take too much power and focus on the generation customers to come. And here we see the huge potential for Pockid to grow with this target group.
And Ray, as someone who works with different generations, but also is from a different generation than Gen Z, as we just mentioned in the intro, do you target a younger audience or younger customer in different ways? And if so, how?
Yeah, well, it's really working with our partners, and we've got a couple here today. They bring the ideas and the target audience. our responsibility is to adapt and tailor our services, which frankly involve regulation. And regulation was never designed for a 13-year-old, but we've adapted the way we do that. We actually started in 2001. Yeah, I'm an old guy, but our first product in 2001 was aimed at teenagers, called Splash Plastic. And we had to develop methods of selling effectively financial services to people you couldn't KYC, which is something that most banks would have just thought was not possible. We were able to get around that. So being creative, really trying to understand the user experience, very simply, if you were trying to KYC a 13-year-old like an adult, it wouldn't work. So you have to come up with alternative ways of doing it. So we work closely with our partners, and we can adapt because we manage the regulation as well as the effectively the processing. We're able to do that. So I've definitely seen that there's a role in fintech to reach the audience that has not been reached at all by the retail banks. And we've got two really great examples on the show today of how you can do that.
And Andreá, tell us about what you think when it comes to reaching that audience that Ray just mentioned. How critical is it for fintechs, other fintechs who are watching, to expand and to really tap into the Gen Z market?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with what Jess and Ray say, especially, at the moment we have like huge bank in the market in Europe and all over the world. They are serving people from 15 years old to 80 years old. And like, you don't talk to those people in the same way. But those banks, if they're talking in a specific way, they will lose a part of their customer. We, neobank or challenger bank, we are focusing on Gen Z or millennial or anything. And we can talk to them in the same way that they're talking to their friends or they're talking to like anyone around them. So we can be like advisor to them. And that's super important. It's super interesting because, especially in France, I guess it's the same in Germany, but people, they don't know about the financial system. They don't know about the banking system. It's super difficult for them to understand, the money flow, what the money is doing in the bank account and those stuff. And so if you want to teach them, they need to trust you. And to trust you, you have to talk like if you were one of their friends. If you're talking to them like if you were like a teacher, and that they remember being sit in a classroom, and that's boring. And people, they won't listen to you. While if you're talking to them in the same way, they used to talk, then you can get them and you can talk to them and you can get them as a customer.
And let's focus on that, exactly that, how you talk to them, because the younger generation, they're tech savvy, but as anyone has to become financially savvy as well. So Jess, what do you do to educate the younger generation and make sure that they're financially savvy as well?
So, as Andreá said, it's about being authentic on any level, to be authentic and to be also transparent. We found the market and the target group to be really not educated in this space at all. So we got kind of questions when we went live from kids which we did not expect, like where's the difference between a debit card number and an IBAN? I just want to have the card and I don't want to have the IBAN. These are questions, which just shows how much need and power we need to, or how much power we need to put into education or educating this target group. And the best way to doing it is by addressing this target group with use cases. So what we see in our cohort analysis is that the 13 to 16-year-old do around 20 to 25 microtransactions on a weekend. These transactions have a value of 10 to 60 euro cent, but it shows they need to do those transactions to level up in their favorite games, otherwise they are missing out on something. Now we can take this use case, put it into our TikTok videos and explain our potential future customers why it is so important to have firstly an banking app experience where they see their spendings in real time, how they can actually set, for example, spending limits, and that they're actually transferring money from A to B, and we think it's super helpful to address this target group with use cases, what they experience in their daily lives.
And Ray, do you feel encouraged when you see the types of financial education that's out there via TikTok, Instagram, social media? And do you think this will create a totally different generation of financially savvy people who know what they're doing with their money, managing their money in a different way.
Yeah, of course. You know, the generation, I suppose, maybe not my generation, maybe my parents' generation, if I give myself a break here, they were very conservative when it came to financial services, not particularly demanding. They would probably stayed with the same financial institution their entire lives. They didn't shop around, and they just took what was on offer, which frankly meant that a lot of banks were able to exploit that and grow fat on the proceeds and not really give a great customer service. The whole generation, digital generation, let's call it that, is so demanding in every engagement, whether that's film, music, shopping, or e-commerce or payments. Now that's a good thing, because that will drive a better user experience. It will drive a more competitive market, and kids frankly are prepared to shop around. You know, I think of I've got 4 kids, so I know all their behaviors, and they will spend hours trying to find the best deal, you know, for something online. If they're using an online fashion retailer, you know, they'll buy 3 different dresses, try one on, maybe return 2, maybe go to a dance and then return the dress the next day. So, you know, I'm not encouraging that, but they've got quite a bit of time. They don't have a huge amount of money, and they're prepared to put the effort in. And I think they enjoy it as well, because as you say, Jez, you know, sharing a great deal on maybe, you know, an e-commerce website or something you've sold online, you've turned, you know, cheap trainers into somehow designer trainers by painting them or something, you know, they're really into that. So they're prepared to do that, and that's a new generation. That can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. And Andreá, do you feel like your customers that are more digitally savvy expect more from fintechs and from their financial service provider?
Yes, I mean, if you had asked me this question 10 years ago, I think the answer would have been totally different. But now, you know, people, they're used to have like an app, which is, it could be like a financial app, or even all the kind of app that you're having with your phone. That's changed everything. And now people are expecting more. They're expecting at least the same level of services within their fintech, within their bank, than within, you know, any kind of provider. And like, especially when you're talking to the younger, we've practically born with phone in our hands. It's a bit different for older people, but for us, I mean, it has to work. If it doesn't work, I mean, people, they won't wait for you to fix the bug. I mean, sometimes if you're super nice to them, they can understand, especially if you're at the beginning of the life of your company. But if it doesn't work, then you're losing your customers. So it's super important. And like, people, they do not have time, you know. There is so many offers on the market. When you're opening like your App Store or Google Play now, there is millions of applications. If your app doesn't work, then the people, they're going to switch to the next one.
Absolutely. And let's look at how fintechs like yourselves can work together to help make all this happen and help each other. So Ray, can you tell us how PPS can power and scale fintechs like Green-Got and Pockid? How does it work?
Well, I think we've got a clear division of responsibilities. So when we engage with partners, it's very clear what our roles and responsibilities are. And, you know, it's a two-way engagement. You know, we like working with companies like Green-Got and Pockid because they have great ideas and they're very enthusiastic. They bring a lot of that energy and they bring a lot of focus. We're there to provide the back office. I mean, you could call it the boring bit if you wanted to, but it's actually, you know, is a lot that we have to do. And our job is to, as I said earlier on, adapt to the needs of the client, who effectively are 100% about the needs of the user. And that's really what we're trying to do. And we operate in several markets where we're trying to, you know, push the envelope. You know, the green area, Green-Got are in, Pockid in terms of, you know, youth, financial inclusion. You know, we work with program managers who are selling financial services to, you know, migrant workers who can't typically, you know, get a normal retail account. And that's all about adapting your service to the needs of the user. And as I said, we do our part, but our clients really bring that user experience, and that's really our job.
Great. And just obviously Gen Z, everyone's young now, but everyone does get older. Tell us how you intend to keep these young customers as they progress through life and keep them as your customers for the long run.
Sure, good question, tough question, but also easy to answer. So right now we are live in Germany, and in Germany we have this special situation that German banks 10-15 years ago had the special idea to issue an own card scheme called Girokarte to compete with Visa and MasterCard. And this card scheme is distributed around 90% to and 90% of the cards are those Girocards, and with those Girocards you cannot pay online. So Girocards are used for mainly withdrawing cash and paying in stores. And if we now look into our target group, the 14 to 17 year olds mainly, they have the highest disposable income in Europe, because in Germany we have a special and unique educational system. Lots of young people start an apprenticeship with 16, but around 50% of this target group has no bank account at all. And if they have a bank account, they are most likely served with a byproduct of their parents with this Girocard. Coming back to my first point, that they are socialized with in-game purchases, subscriptions, and e-commerce transactions, it's pretty clear that they quite easily fall in love with a product like Pockid. And if we manage it to become their first bank account with the first IBAN and with the first virtual and physical debit MasterCard, we can, with a good experience, lock them in for a while. And if we look at those fields we are addressing, especially social commerce and gaming, this is a trend which is not stopping with the 18th birthday. It's rather a cultural thing. So although the young person turns 18, he or she will not stop to do, doing transactions in the favorite game or go e-commerce and shopping. And if Pockid enables this generation also over time to easily enable their digital hobbies and needs, and we will grow with them over time. And let's see where we will be in 5 to 10 years. We'll retain them for sure.
And Andreá, how do you plan to grow with your customers?
I mean, we don't have this limit. We are serving all kinds of customers. So, I mean, it shouldn't be a problem with us. I mean, we are talking to them because we are not directly like Gen Z. We are more like Gen Y, and those are our customers. So we're going to grow up with them. And so I think our communication will change with the time, but the people that we serve, they will change with time. So we have the same age, and we are all the team at Gringot. Everybody is between 25 and 40 years old. So that's our target, and we are our target. So we know our target perfectly.
Brilliant. And circling back to green finance, Andreá, at the heart of finance is payments. How do you think payments can help finance go green?
In a lot of ways, like actually, when you think about it, everything that you consume is about payment. So paying something is the end of every kind of production. So when you produce something, you have like the CO2 footprint or the impact on the planet of what you're producing. But in the end, everything that has been produced is being sold, or almost everything. So being connected to a payment card or like a payment application can help, can help people to understand what is consumed. And so we at Gringot, for instance, we have in our application, we have something that is connected to your card, and that can help you to understand your CO2 footprint. When you are buying something, when you are purchasing something, we can estimate based on like a few questions and an algorithm, we can estimate the CO2 footprint of all of the things you're buying. And this, when you know that, you can, because to reduce your CO2 footprint, first you need to know it. And once you know it, then you can reduce it. So that's exactly what we are doing at Gringot. We help you to understand your footprint, and then we give you some advice to reducing it. And that's super important. I think payment is one of the key of this industry. You have a lot of other things in the banking industry, such as saving and stuff, but payment is super important, and that's something we are really looking into it with Gringat.
And Ray, what do you think? How do you think the payments industry has the power to make finance go green and become more sustainable?
Well, as I said at the beginning, some of it will be self-serving in terms of a commercial point of view, but there's much more governance, and that's obviously part of the ESG topic as well, and shareholder demands for companies to be publishing their environmental impacts. It's something we do. We're part of a larger group, and so we have to look at the environment impact of the payment products we have, down to where our data centers are housed, are they environmentally friendly, and what are our cards actually used for. But I do think that the payment in terms of digital commerce, you can quite easily drive a lot of social good. An example I use all the time is, it's Amazon, so maybe they're not the best example of socially forward-looking company, but they have a product called Smile, and it's a charitable button, and you basically sign up as a charity, and you just link that to all of your friends, and the same payments the same purchases I would make on Amazon, if I just go through that link on Amazon, there's a donation to, it happens to be my local village hall. Now, so I'm not changing my behavior at all. I'm not paying anything extra, but I'm feeling encouraged. So now actually everyone's gone crazy spending on Amazon during lockdown, but now I feel good about it. And I can almost, I can buy myself, those new pet trainers and feel, well, at least I've been given 10p to the village hall, so I've done a good thing. So that's a good example. There's other examples, with contactless readers, the SumUps, the Stripes, and the PayPals, where you've got pop-up communities, local produce. There's been a lot of that during COVID. People wanting to sell local produce, or bake pizzas. We have that one in our village, and he's got a SumUp machine. So everything's taken care of. So there are really nice examples. It serves a purpose, but it's a good example to see it's encouraging more thought into how you're selling things and what you're doing when you're selling things. And, the payments industry has some good examples of doing that. You've seen examples of, companies giving readers to buskers in the street. The big issue in the UK famously has contactless payments. There's a company called Pennies I know pretty well, who really encourage that, round up to charity at the part of the checkout. So there's plenty of examples, and e-commerce enables it to happen, because you can very easily, from a consumer point of view, you just press a button, boom, whether it's a carbon footprint on a flight or something, everything else is taken care of, and you feel, you've done your bit.
Yeah, it is very cool. For example, how buskers now, you can pay them with contactless, and there's so much happening. Yeah. And on that note, Jez, what do you think? What positive steps in the right direction do you see in the finance industry that Ray just touched upon?
So, well, there are many, there are plenty. In the end, it's an enabling industry, right? As mentioned already, we are enabling everything in the end. Obviously, this also brings in kind of responsibility. What I actually really like at the moment is the whole open banking trend, and I think we are just in the beginning of it. I think over the next years we will see much more about contextual and embedded finance in different value chains. Making the user experience even leaner and better, make things easier. So I think we could speak hours and hours about how payment can kind of improve various things in life.
And Andreá, what do you think in terms of future trends on a positive note? So financial inclusion, green finance, what are you seeing?
I think it has started already, like a few years ago, when you're forbidden for having a bank account, you couldn't do anything. You could have some cash, or you could go to like a dedicated governmental bank, but now it has changed a lot. In France, we have a lot of players now that are dedicated to people with like money issue and this kind of stuff. And I think it's gonna increase in the future. I think what we are seeing now with all the crypto and the blockchain, I think it's gonna be a big impact for the banking and the payment industry. You know, now I think in the future, I don't know when, but people won't have bank at some point. They're gonna use like crypto for payment. I think that's already going to happen. It's gonna be a big shift for everybody. It has to be regulated because it can be issue, you know, with the money laundering and this kind of stuff. But if the bank actor, they can handle something good, I think it has a huge impact on the future. And I think that's super promising, but it has to be, you know, controlled in a way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time and thank you for watching.